There you go. Good morning, real closers. Good morning. We are back. We're back with Power Hour. So how's it going, Gustavo? It's been what, 2 weeks?
It's been, yeah, a little bit of a hiatus. I've been busy, you've been busy. I think but we're back, right? The important thing is we're back, we're in it. We're also in the middle of conference season for real estate, so a lot of things going on, all over the place. But glad to be back here, Power Hour. Let's set it in stone this time. Let's pick it back up.
Yeah, we'll take it back up, and we're actually doing more for the group. So we're going to be providing more content. We're going to have more people come in on board, interviews. So we're going to have a ton of value for you guys. So let's start again today. So the topic for today is, how to deal with buyer reluctance. How do you do that now? I mean, not everybody wants to buy, right? Market, a lot of people are complaining. A lot of agents are still killing it. But
Yeah.
more or less, what do we do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's a great topic. It's probably the number one issue that I'm seeing people come up with, because right now, as the market shifts, and again, this is very local, right? Not every market is the same. I just got back from a great conference over in Detroit. We had people from all over the country, and in some markets, like parts of Chicago, Hartford, Connecticut, the Northeast, part of it, they're not shifting nearly as hard as what we're seeing out west. California, Arizona, Nevada, Idaho, Boise area. Those markets are shifting really, really hard. And some of them have more inventory now than even before the pandemic, but that's very uneven. Not the whole country's there. So you're seeing different levels of shift depending on where you are. So the real answer, folks, is all numbers are local. That's the number one takeaway that I got. But everyone is dealing with a little bit of buyer reluctance, regardless of the market, though. That's a crazy thing. Buyers in Hartford and Chicago and Boise and Miami, they're all feeling that reluctance, right? Because they're seeing, the number one reason is that they're seeing headlines from the national media. And the national media is saying pretty much the same headline. They're asking a very loaded question. Are we in the crash? Is the crash now? Is the crash next month? Is it worse than 2008? Right? Those are very loaded questions. They're meant to drive clicks, right? The media is doing what the media does. They want to get people's attention. Yeah, 100%, right? So it's all about, how bad is the crash? Is the crash now? And is it worse than 2008? Could it be worse? This person says it's going to be even worse. Oh my God, the sky is falling. So that's the kind of a narrative people are seeing across the board, in spite of the fact that it's a very uneven shifting market right now. And still, in a lot of these markets, the best properties are still going for multiple offers, which I think is kind of crazy, right? Just that not as many offers as they were getting 6 months ago, right? In some of these markets, definitely buyer activity is down, showings are down, days on market are up, inventory is up, but it's a very uneven piece of it. But that's what we're seeing across the board, right? The buyers are getting this message from the national media, from social media, that holy cow, something unbelievably bad is happening. You should be on the fence, right? So that's typically what we're seeing. You're seeing qualified buyers that can get a home in this market. They want to hold off. And I love to call this objection. We talked about this a few weeks ago. I love to call this objection the timing the market objection. They're timing the market. They go, no. I think it's going to go further down for another 6 months. So I want to wait 6 months, because then the prices will be even better than now, right? There's deals right now, there'll be deals later. At this conference, Roberto, I saw a really important data point, right? No one knows where interest rates going to be there, right? Mm-hmm. But the forecast of the major, investment banks, analysts think that next year interest rates will be on the low end 4 to 5%, and on the high end 5 to 6%. Okay. So that's what people are forecasting next year's interest rates to be. And we're going to find out really soon how quickly we're going to get a little bit of relief from those interest rates. So no one that's serious about this issue is predicting 8, 9, 10, 11% interest rates next year. Okay. No one is predicting that. In fact, most analysts are saying, hey, inflation has probably already peaked, right? It peaked over the summer. We're just going to be on the downward trend from here on out. We're going to see higher rates than before. That's a no doubter. But we're not going to see this infinite rise to where we see triple, quadruple the rates we saw only a few months ago. So factoring that in, this interest rate led crash of the real estate market, it's just becoming less and less likely to happen. Definitely has decelerated, definitely has become a more balanced market across the board. but we just don't see it happening, right? So the biggest thing you should do, and I was also on the way back and forth to that conference, I read this really great book by Gary Keller. It's called Shift. And reading it, Roberto, was hilarious because they're describing a lot of the behaviors we're seeing right now, right? On buyer activity being stalled, on the doom and gloom being generalized, regardless of what's going on the ground. The media can drive a narrative regardless of what's going on in reality, right? Because that's what the dominant narrative can be, and how it can be challenging, and how you should become a voice of reason, right? When you have a buyer, a potential qualified buyer that can purchase a property now, it actually gives you a couple of really good suggestions I thought was great, right? You should always tell them, right? When you're, and it actually suggests really simple exercise, and I loved that you should draw a graph and go, hey, when prices are going up, when do you want to, when do you think it's a good time to sell, right? You should draw a little graph and going, where now, because like every commodity, real estate prices trend up and they can trend down, like any commodity on the face of the earth. And if you do a little, it suggests a really simple exercise. Draw a graph of prices going up and then they start to go down. When do you want to sell? Okay, right there. When the market is turning, I want to sell right there. And then do the same thing when you want to buy. The market's going down, and then show them the uptick. Oh, I want to buy there, right? So that exercise teaches them one really simple fact. You only know when the market has changed months after the fact, right? It is impossible to accurately time that market because you only know when you're an absolute peak or an absolute dip months after the fact. And hitting that exact precise moment has more to do with luck than any accurate forecast you can do, right? So I think that little graph exercise can show them this is just so unlikely for you to hit that absolute peak and absolute valley just because of the nature of how the market works, right? And there's always a lag in understanding this data. We are now understanding in October of 2022 that the national peak in the market was probably in June, May and June timeframe. That was probably the peak of this of the latest cycle, right? We figured that out in October, Roberto, all right? That's a fact now. We understand it. No one knew it in May and June, right? No one knew what was happening with clarity, with that level of clarity back in May and June. Interest rates were at 4.5%, 5%, right? And in May and June. So did we know that was the peak of the market? We had no idea, right? So that's the reality of this. Timing the market is just not a realistic expectation. What the book recommends is that you should tell them most people want to buy and sell in the safe zone when you're in a decreasing market because you know it's going to come back, right? Right. What's your confidence that this home is going to go to zero? That's not going to happen, right? This is not going to happen. What's your confidence that it'll never get back to this price? Okay, that's not going to happen either, right? You're only going to say, how long will it take to get back to this price? And it can be a year, it can be a couple of years. Even in 2008, I bought at the top of the market, early 2008, almost the absolute peak of the market, almost for that area. And within 3 years, I was even money. Within 3 years, I was exactly back to even. And when I sold that property, I made out tremendously because I was not speculating. I didn't buy my house to flip it 6 months later. I didn't buy my house to flip it a year later. In the very short term, you can have a lot of price volatility in any market. If you're in it for the long term, let's find you a great property that you can comfortably afford. And then you can figure out and don't worry about what's going to happen in the very short term. Why don't we go back to your motivation? And that's what this book suggests. Drill down into the motivation, right? Because as long as they're not a flipper, a speculator, that always carries a ton of risk. That always carries a ton of risk, right? That short-term flipping, short-term buy and hold strategy of short-term, always a lot of risk. Most buyers and sellers are not that person, right? When you sell on a rising market, you buy at a higher price. When you sell in a down market, you buy at a lower price as well, right? So there's always that chance that that's a wash in a lot of these markets, right? It doesn't really matter that much because you're selling at a lower price and you're buying at a slightly lower price, right? So I think the book recommends, and I agree with this wholeheartedly, teaching them this, showing them this, that staying on the fence indefinitely is just not a sound strategy. It doesn't really work that way, right? They're going to find out with certainty, whatever that means, certainty, what's going on in the market 6 months from now, right? 6 months from now. And we don't know where prices are going to be there exactly. We don't know where interest rates are going to be there exactly. But everyone that knows what they're talking about is not going to saying that the interest rates are going to go to 7, 8, 9, and 10. No one is saying that. No one is predicting that, right? Even the National Association of Realtors is predicting a 6% interest rate next year, right? And then you would think that we would be, oh, let's put it down to 4, right? That sounds better. We're predicting it's going to be at 6. NAR is predicting it's going to be at 6, right? And other analysts are saying it'll be 4 to 5. So go long 4 to 6. They'll be in the 4 to 6 range. Once people realize, here's my prediction. Here's my prediction, Roberto. And we'll find this out in about 2 weeks, whether I'm how right or wrong I am. My prediction is once people realize that interest rates are not going to go, it's not, if inflation is peaked in the summer, and we're going to start to see that towards the end of the year, if it actually peaked in the summer and rates are not going to go 8, 9, and 10, as some people are predicting, I think a lot of these buyers are going to get off the fence and we'll see more activity. I don't think we're going to see a 50% activity decline by the first quarter of next year, which is where this will be trending. If interest rates keep going up and up and up and up, I don't think we're going to get there. I don't think we're going to get there. I'm not going out on a limb by saying that. A lot of smart people are saying that. I think as soon as you'll realize that the interest rates aren't going to infinity, a lot of these buyers are going to get off the fence and they're going to go back and get serious about it because there is more inventory. It is a much more favorable environment to buy than it was 6 months ago. Way more than it was a year ago. Unbelievably more favorable to them. They can get their rate bought down from the sellers, from the builders. They can get different loan products approved that you couldn't do that a few months ago, right? There's inventory to show people in most of these markets, lots of inventory, whether that's new construction inventory, resale inventory. There's more homes out there for people to pick from. So I think we're in for a lot of good news within the next few weeks. That I'm not predicting the market's going to be as hot as it was a year ago. I don't think that's coming back. I don't think 2% interest rates are coming back, right? I don't. But I also don't think on the other end of the spectrum is true, where we're going to see this infinity of interest rates go up and up and up and up every single month to where they're double digits to really like half the buying capacity of the country. I just don't see it happening. And you should be educating your buyers on what's actually going on and what's likely to happen, instead of the doom and gloom kind of narrative that they might be seeing from the national media.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's more important than ever, right now, educating the people that you're talking to.
100%.
And you can do this many ways, right? We talked about social media last time, how you can put yourself out there through social media, go live, record videos, text people, send them short videos.
Video is the best. If you can't get in front of someone and do this with them, or even a Zoom call, video is the next best thing. One of our clients, a friend of here, real close, was John D. Smith. He recorded a 1-minute video, right? Explaining this exact thing. He goes, hey, 2% interest rates are not coming back, folks, right? That's just not coming back. This is a reality, right? We're going to a normal interest rate that might be between 4 and 5%, which is like a historical average for the country, right? It might be 4 to 6, I think is a pretty normal interest rate that's been around for decades, right? And a more balanced market is better. When you sell at a really, really high price, you're also buying at a really high price. When you sell at a slightly lower price, you're going to be able to buy at a slightly lower price. So what are we talking about? We're going back to a normal market instead of a hyper white hot seller's market. He sent that text message out to 15, 20 of his top prospects. A lot of them from cold calling, actually. A lot of them from cold calling. And he got 3 listings that week, right? 3 people said, you know what? You're absolutely right. He put things in perspective. He didn't promise anything. He didn't guarantee what's going to happen. No one knows that. No one can say that honestly, that they know exactly what's going to happen. But he helped interpret what's going on, right? He told them, hey, look at this. Another statistic people get thrown off by. In the last 4 recessions in the country, and only one of them did we see a real estate market crash. That was 2008. And recency bias makes us think that it always happens, that a recession in the economy is accompanied by some massive real estate sell-off, right? And huge amounts of inventory and very low buyer capacity. That was unique to 2008. That is not the rule, right? In 3 out of the last 4 recessions, prices stayed essentially flat or even increased slightly, right? So people need to know this information. They do not let them just be driven by that single doom and gloom narrative. I don't think you're doing right by them.
Yeah, and the thing is, like you mentioned earlier, right? Media is like news outlets. They're a business. They're trying to make money, and
100%. They
good
want the
news doesn't
click.
make money.
They want the click, right? They want the click. Questionable whether we're in a housing crash or not is not as good a clickable headline is this crash going to be worse in 2008, right? I'm just asking the question, is it going to be worse in 2008 or not? So let's see. It's a very self-serving kind of a narrative as well. And people need to keep that in mind.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, guys, if you found this content useful, any value with it, hey, drop a comment. If you have questions, drop a comment. If there's anything you want us to drill down, drop a comment. We'll come back on Monday and we'll go through our normal power hour. Mondays, 8:30. If you have any questions, feel free to send us a message and we'll get back next week. So enjoy your day, guys. Have a good.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, Gustavo. Talk to you later.